Before we get started, I got to give a little shout out to Hafty. Hafty is the perfect layering shirt for women. It adds a sleeve and a neckline to all of your sleeveless tops, dresses, and jumpers and allows you to wear all of today's fashions without all the extra bulk and heat, but you get to do it modestly. So I've actually got one on. This is our brand new ruche sleeve, cuts off right here. It is perfect for this maxi dress and just gives me a more modest coverage, but it also lets me extend my wardrobe all year round. Go ahead and use Her Layered Life to save 15% off your first purchase. Go check us out at hafty.com. Welcome to Her Layered Life, where faith, family, business, and the power of her influence come together. Because her life is layered and her influence can change the world. I've said it before, our layers tell a story. And one of those layers, whether we like it or not, is how we show up on the outside. The clothes we wear, the confidence we carry, and the way we see our reflection is all connected to a deeper story we're living. Today's guest, Mykel Davis, has built a beautiful message around that truth. You may know her on her Instagram as Mykel Davis. Is it underscore? Is there an underscore after that? At the end? Okay. Mm-hmm. So at Mykel Davis _ from Body Shape Styling, where she helps women dress for their body shape and rediscover their self-worth. Her tagline says it all. Your body is not the problem. Mykel's work goes far beyond hemlines and silhouette. It's about helping women remember who they are and show up in the world from a place of love, not lack. And I can't wait for you to hear her story. Mykel, welcome.
Oh my gosh, that intro. I love that.
You're welcome.
Whoa.
I'm glad you loved it.
Thank you.
It's always a little surprise. And I'm always like, oh, I wonder if she's going to like
it. No, I love that.
Oh, good.
It's so sweet. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
This is our first time meeting.
This is our first time
We've seen each other on social media. So I was telling Mykel.
Like I know you, but I don't.
Yes.
Yet. Now.
Yeah. Now you know me.
But I felt like I knew you, but I didn't properly know you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Guys, just so you know, even in the world of influence and Instagram, we need to meet the people we love and that we follow because it really does bring a completely different connection and understanding as to who they really are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I totally agree with
that. All right, let's get started. So, Mykel, your message. Your body is not the problem. I mean, I follow you, but when I had to go do some research and really read your what's it called? Yeah, your mission. What's it called on your
bio?
Yes, thank you. That's the word. Your bio, that really stuck out to me, and I love it because even with Hafty in the world of women that we've been working with, I love, and it's so profound to say, listen, your body's not the problem. It's not the problem. It hits so deep. Was there a moment in your own life when you realized the body wasn't the issue, your body was the issue, and when you did so, did something shift?
Yes. So it's so funny because I feel like to get to the point of when I realized it wasn't, it goes back to all the years of believing it was. And so I have all these times in my life that I still remember that are almost like seared in my mind of times that boys or friends or people in my life, society kind of made me believe that my body was a problem. And so I think after all those years, I started to live what I call just Satan's lie about our body and that it's a problem. And I moved to Utah and, I was a little new in the modest fashion world and
Where did you move from?
Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you're born and raised? Is it Michigan?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I felt like when I moved here, there was a lot of the same styles and a lot of the same body shape, just very common. And I started to notice that. And I would go into these modest clothing stores or clothing stores, and I would just cry. I'd feel like, why does this not fit me? I don't understand why. And I just couldn't quite reconcile that. And it's so interesting because my background is actually in fashion. And so, and I've up to this point have designed clothing and so it's I knew body shapes for women and I knew that background. And so when I designed clothes, I worked on body shapes, but then I didn't think about that for myself.
Oh, that's interesting.
So interesting. It was like a blind spot. that I would try stuff on and cry and be upset and think my body's wrong, it's the problem. And so I was in a dressing room and trying on this dress, and it was just poofy and frilly and beautiful, but just kinda had this, like, aha moment that was like, "This dress is not made for your body shape."
Mm.
And it's interesting because that's knowledge that was in my mind, I never knew it for myself. And all of a sudden, it was like an eye-opening experience where then at that store and as I was shopping, I was able to see, like, wait, none of the clothing in this store was designed for my body shape. And it just took off, and I went home and that day and I filmed a video about it, and it went viral. And not that I needed the viral to, like, validate it, but it kind of made me realize, like, "Oh, this is something a lot of us feel.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
something a lot of us don't realize. This is a lie that we've been told, some of us probably our entire lives, that our body is the problem in these scenarios, and not the messages, not the clothing, not even the people maybe that are speaking this over us." And so that was when I was like, this is something that really would be impactful to talk about. And so I kind of just had this own self-discovery journey, and I should have mentioned this before, but prior to um, that day in that dressing room just trying on clothes for something I had been praying about my struggles because I felt like I shouldn't feel this way about myself. I
Mhm.
kinda knew that I
Mhm.
shouldn't have those feelings. Like, I knew they were of the spirit of God or of good, but I didn't understand. I just felt like maybe it was just neutral. Like, women just hate their bodies. Like, it
Right.
just felt like that.
Right.
So I had been praying pretty fervently, like, "Help me to see myself accurately."
Oh,
And so
interesting.
that was probably I should have started with that, but that was where in that dressing room experience, it was kind of that realization of honestly seeing my body in a real way.
Mhm.
And body shape styling is so simple. It's not about, even necessarily, like, looking good or looking bad. It's like every clothing item is made with volume in certain places and
Mhm.
and less volume in others, and that needs to be compatible with the volume on your body. So if you don't have a lot of this area, then you would, potentially balance and add some volume, and that's why you go to the store and some women like me try this stuff on and I'm like, "I look like a busty can of biscuits. Like, how am I supposed to feel good in this?" Like, I feel giant. I mean,
Yeah.
not that that's the goal always to feel small, but you just feel, like, not good, and then it was realizing, like, because that's not for me. That dress was not made for me, and that's okay.
Uh-huh.
And so that was really, I would say, the start. I think prior to that, there was honestly probably maybe a year of, like, praying about it and just feeling like I was really struggling and feeling like I knew there was something I was missing. But after that moment, it just took off, and then I started posting it, and it just, like, grew and grew, and the message grew, and it just honestly blew up, like,
Right.
crazy, and it was something that I think I had to learn first and see it for myself to be able to then share it. Because I would have told women who I was designing clothing for, like, you look great," because I believe that for other people, but you have to believe it for
Fascinating.
yourself to teach other people. And I think
Interesting.
I finally in that moment, like, knew it for myself, and then events to follow, spiritual events and just even technically, learning and stuff, um, it became a testimony for me that I didn't have before.
Huh. So tell me this. I wanna go a little bit deeper
Yeah.
into you used to design clothes.
Yeah.
Your background is in
Mhm.
clothes. So tell me education-wise, did you go to college as a to be a no? No? Okay.
I did a
Yeah.
semester at BYU Idaho, and I
Okay.
thought, "That'll do it." And I just went on. Yeah, so I own a clothing brand now, but at the time I lived in Arizona for a little while, and I was working as just, like, a full-time influencer, and I was doing, like, New York Fashion Week or London Fashion Week and working backstage, so just really heavily involved in fashion, and in my very what's that word? Delusional confidence, I'm like, "I could probably design." Like, I wanted to design stuff that I was seeing backstage, and so I had a platform at the time, completely different platform, but it was editorial styling, and I designed clothing just as a collection. as kind of like as an influencer collection, like, "Oh, I'm gonna design this." And so I worked with someone and I, like, designed a mini collection, and I never took it anywhere. It
Mm.
was just that experience, and it wasn't until probably 5 years later, I think, that I started, like, a clothing line. But that was when I learned about body shapes and styling and why things flatter and why they don't, and what looks good on women, what doesn't, and then working backstage at Fashion Week, that played a lot of positive and negative roles in my mind, but I started to see a lot of fashion and just being exposed to a lot more, of the culture of it, and I think it helped me to love it and have a passion for it, but then it also taught me, I mean, if there's any message that your body is a problem, it is backstage at Fashion Week. And I would like that was also a time where I feel like I was starting to learn like, "Oh, wow, like, you need to look like this to have this," and, like, we all have these times in our lives where we build these belief systems that our body's a problem, and, but anyway, so Fashion Week is when I was in working at fashion, that was when I had, like, that love, and it really just was kind of an entrepreneurial thing. It wasn't really extensive background, it was more of just rubbing shoulders with enough people that I was able to do on my own.
Hmm. When you were working in Fashion Week, was that your job?
Backstage, mhm, yeah,
So
yeah,
something that you filled out an application for?
yeah,
Okay.
so I was working with the company. I was actually doing hair at the time
Okay.
backstage, so I filled out an application with the company I was with to go work backstage, and yeah, just be backstage and all these different shows, and we did, like, London Fashion Week, and then later, not with that company, like, I went to New York Fashion Week and, with a close friend of mine, and so I was very heavily involved in the industry, hair, makeup, and also in fashion, because I also have a background in cosmetology. I
Okay.
forgot to mention that, and that's where a lot of my professional career up until this point was in.
Okay.
Like, when I moved to Utah, I started Jay-Z Academy
Okay.
with Jess
Uh-huh.
and, not started, but kind of, like, helped build that, and so a lot of hair, a lot of fashion, just a lot of the industry in general. Mhm.
So fascinating to me. This is I love it in that that's her layered life, right?
Mhm.
So
So
you
many layers.
right, so many layers
Mhm.
of building and developing you as
Mhm.
a person within the field and within the realm that it sounds like to me, and you can say yes or no, but it sounds like to me that the Lord intended
Mhm.
you to go and
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And
I
now
see
you
that now.
are yeah,
Mhm.
you see that it's funny, huh, because we just think I hear that a lot. I just think we're just going through the motions, but it's the way the Lord works. It's
Yeah.
just I don't know, I can't wait to ask. But it's the way the Lord works, how he orders our steps.
Yeah.
That was something that Alyssa Diaz said, in the very first podcast, but she said something to the effect of, "The Lord ordered my steps."
Mhm.
And it has stuck with me, uh, for a really long time now, but to see that order and how the Lord ordered your steps to put you here today talking and helping women understand the power
Mhm.
of dressing your body,
Yeah.
shape,
Yeah.
and that there is just incredible
Mhm.
power there when we do so.
Yeah.
I love it. Um, so it's just amazing how God can take something that once felt like a weakness,
Mhm.
right? And use it as the foundation
Mhm.
for your mission.
Yeah.
It's
So
incredible.
true.
It's incredible.
All it is was like a weakness turned into a strength.
And your experiences, not all of our experiences are good experiences,
So true.
right?
Mhm.
And yet if we go into each of the experiences, I've been thinking so much about this because the scriptures teach us that when Adam and Eve chose to partake of the fruit, right? There would be opposition in all things. Good choices have opposition.
Mhm.
Bad choices have
Yeah.
opposition,
Yeah.
right? But going back to the good choices,
Mhm.
you were making good choices, but there was opposition
Mhm.
in all of those decisions. And when we go through opposition with God,
Mhm.
he can take all of the
Mhm.
consequences and turn them for our good.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. And I feel like your
Yeah.
story really
Totally.
really,
Yeah.
you can see that.
100%.
All right. You talk a lot about self-worth,
Mhm.
not self-image.
Mhm.
And the distinction is huge. For the women listening who's lost confidence in her body, where does she start? Is it in the mirror or is it the mindset?
Mm. Oh, I have a lot to say about this one, but I'll condense. I I have a belief system that is I don't know. I mean, I believe it, but I think that Satan uses our bodies more often against us. And so when we're talking about where do I start with feeling good about myself, you first have to start with, well, why don't you? Like, where did that come from?
Okay,
Because we're
interesting. I
not
love it.
even aware of why we're struggling with our body. I look back and I see years of Satan's lies and just listening and taking them to heart and taking them and kind of taking those beatings. So when women come to me and they're like, "Well, I feel how do I find my self-worth?" It's like, "Well, why did you lose it?
Hmm.
Well, where did it go? Well,
Mhm.
why don't you have it?" And that was probably the biggest aha moment for me was backtracking and realizing I'm made in the image of God. I'm wonderfully created, knitted in my mother's womb. Everybody's unique. Every soul, it has value and meaning. So why don't we feel that way? And the fact that we don't would not be a fruit of the spirit. God wouldn't want us to feel bad about ourselves. In fact, in a scripture study, I actually came to this knowledge that, like I said, it's my interpretation, but when Adam and Eve were in the garden and they had a little bit of power, right? Or Satan had a little bit of power to tempt them, but he didn't have full power over them at that time. When he gained it, when they partook of the fruit and did all of that, if you think about what was the first thing that Satan told them, and the first thing, if he could make them feel anything, if he could influence anything, it was shame about their bodies.
Mhm.
Was the first thing he did.
Yeah.
The first thing, and you don't think he would have thought of the most powerful thing in that moment, the first temptation outside of, the fruit. And he's been doing that, and he has thousands of years of refining that because if he can make you hate your body, he can make you do anything with your body.
Sure.
And I think it's a tool of distraction. I think that Satan uses our bodies, there's obviously so much good, but more often I think that he targets the body. And so when women ask, "How do I start with self-worth?" Well, first you have to decide what lies are you listening to.
Mm.
And you'll find them.
Mhm.
Spend one day and think about what you're thinking. What thoughts come to your mind when you see someone, when you're looking in the mirror, when you're getting dressed. Think about that and make a list. I mean, that's what I did. Like, what are these lies? And then you have to put truth to those lies. Then you have to take those lies to God. That's what I did, at least in my advice. And you have to say, "Help me to see the truth over these lies, and help me to understand that these are lies about my worth and my body." And so when I first started this, it was a lot of technical, of styling for your body. But I realized that true worth in who you are and in feeling good about your body cannot just be a technical thing, and it can't just be a worldly thing. You have to go to the source of who created you to find the measure of your creation, and so I try and marry those 2 together where I'm gonna give you technical tips too, I'm in fashion, I love fashion, but not without the spiritual, because you could wear anything. You could wear the perfect outfit for yourself. Heck, you could probably even have the perfect body and wear the perfect outfit for yourself, but if you're listening to lies about your worth and your body and all of that, it won't matter. And Satan has influence over the most beautiful women in the world
Mhm.
about their bodies. And so a lot of women want technical. They're like, "No, like tell me what to wear." And I'm like, "We'll get there, but first you have to stop listening to the lies." And they are there and they're probably constant for some women and for other women not as much. And I thought it was me that was listening to these lies only. I don't know. I just kind of thought like this was my thing, my problem. When I started to counsel women, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women now, they all struggle with their bodies. I'm like, "Why are we why?"
Mhm.
And you have to start with the why.
Mhm.
And you have to start with, "Why do I feel this way? And who told me that?
Right.
Who told me this? Society? But Satan,
Mhm.
really. I mean, Satan works through society
Sure.
very well, and he works through social media very well. So we have to dispel those lies and start building on belief systems, and then we can focus on the dressing and the fun, but it's deeper than that. I
Sure.
thought it was kind of just the fun, and as got deeper into it, I realized that it's actually so much deeper than just wearing the right clothes.
Agreed. I love it. There's a talk
Mhm.
that talks about our worth. And in the talk, it talks about how you can have a $20 bill. You remember
Mhm.
it?
I know this
And you
one.
can squish it up and
Yeah.
you can step on it and it gets so dirty. But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
does the worth of that $20 bill change? No, you could still take that dirty, crumpled up $20 bill and go spend it the same as you could
Mhm.
a crisp one.
Mhm.
But really, we choose
Mhm.
whether or not we still deem that $20 worthy of it being $20. And I love that analogy in this setting that, yes, Satan has a huge, the world is his playground,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And,
and he's good at
and
it.
he's good at it. And the funny thing is that we have to remember while we're on this topic is he is good at it because he has tons of experience, but he's honestly not that creative.
No.
To
No.
be completely honest, he
It's the
doesn't even
same
have to
tricks.
be. He doesn't have to be creative because we continue to give
Mhm.
him control
Mhm.
over his little, literally, it's like a little handful of things that he knows how to help, especially for women. And as women, we, and to our credit and to the reality is, as I think so much about how many things we choose to do as women
Mhm.
that significantly change our
Mhm.
bodies,
Mhm.
right? We're way more pulled into the diet fads. We have children.
Mhm.
We really sacrifice a lot as women,
Mhm.
which generally has an effect on our bodies.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think too is the why, but also finding a lot of grace
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
ourselves as women, right? And
Mhm.
and grace, but also like pat ourselves on the back more often. Talk about, oh my gosh, look, tell your body, you are so strong. You have a cycle every month. You are, even in a cycle of a month, the things that our
Oh
bodies change
gosh,
to go
yeah.
through just so that we have the opportunity if we chose to become mothers.
Mhm.
And then you have a baby and it will never be the same. I don't care who you are. Maybe you can maybe skirt by one or two and maybe have,
Yeah.
less, but less changes. But anyways, give yourself grace
Mhm.
and give your body love. Because it really does, as women specifically, our bodies
Mhm.
are incredible,
Mhm.
incredible instruments, literally in the hands of God,
Yeah.
because we have the opportunity oftentimes to give life. So
Yeah.
because of that, anyways, I think as women, especially moms, we spend so much time dressing everyone else that we
Mhm.
forget to see ourselves. But when we put something on that makes us feel aligned, it's like we remember we're worth showing up for. And so I kind of want to segment a little bit into now we have the why, but I talk a lot about there's very simple things that we can do to show up for our day every single
Mhm.
day,
Yeah.
right? This is a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I feel like I'm in the
The right
the
company.
right company. How important it is as women, because we are creators. Women were meant to create, right?
Mhm.
I know we get a lot of slack because we spend so much money or we want our house to look beautiful. We
Mhm.
are always buying clothes. But that is literally our God-given
Mhm.
uh desires, is to create and beautify
Mhm.
things. And I believe that that is something that we need to harness, but at the
Mhm.
same time lean into. So I often talk about how important it is that every day do your hair, put a tiny, like 3 things of makeup. I say eyebrows, mascara, and a little bit of lipstick
Yep.
go a long ways,
Mhm.
right? And then put on something that makes you feel like you showed up.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on getting dressed? Does getting dressed
Mhm.
and putting on an outfit that maybe is not perfect yet because it's not designed specifically for our
Yeah,
body,
yeah.
but what are your thoughts on the power of getting dressed in the
Yeah.
morning?
I think it's so powerful, and I'm so funny you said that because I work from home. I run businesses from home. I do everything from home. And I started to struggle a lot with just feeling kind of in a rut, just all these things. And I realized that I was working so many hours for other women, like telling them what to wear for their bodies or doing all this stuff that I wasn't actually really like I kind of neglected like my own
Sure.
style. Like it was really an ironic thing. And spiritual or not, I don't know. Sometimes you're like, was this me? Was this like a spiritual thing? I don't know. But I actually had that thought that was like every day, get up and just get ready for the day. And I started to do that, and I started to just it was like I would either choose, like, hair, makeup, outfit was, like, kinda my thing that I would do, and it's a little hard to, like, get really dressed up and then work from home, but now I have a lot more like, every day I'm going somewhere, I'm doing something like a podcast or, so I have more reason, but a lot of women don't. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
stay-at-home moms, what's the reason? Why bother? And so I think there's power in it. Why there's power in it, I agree with what you're saying, but I don't know if there's, like, some brand thing that I'm missing psychologically, but I noticed a huge shift when I started to just get dressed a little bit and it kind of just set my day. You've already kind of said this, but my assumption is because I think when you're putting value and you're putting things back into yourself and sort of refilling that cup a little bit, you're able to go and help other people. And I think it's yeah, it may be linked to a little bit of like self-worth, self-esteem. But I 100% believe in that. And I don't even have the answer of why, but I know it works
Mm-hmm.
because I've
Well,
seen it.
and I think that you can kind of look at it in so many different ways, right? Where there's a reason why we don't go to church in sweats,
Totally.
right? There's a reason why our kids, some schools have uniforms.
Mhm.
There's a reason why you go put on a uniform when you go play a basketball game.
Mhm.
What we put on represents where
Yes.
we're headed,
Yes.
right? And so as women, specifically as women, um, I believe that because of our feminine nature and because of our natural God-given desires,
Mhm.
when we repress that, right? When we really kind of squash that femininity down,
Mhm.
it actually has greater consequences for us than if it was the men getting up in
Mhm.
a t-shirt. I still think it has similar consequences, but I think specifically even more importantly for women,
Yeah.
we need to express the desires we have
Yeah.
to feel beautiful and
Mhm.
to take care of things. So,
I like that, yeah. That's a good perspective. I know it works, but I don't know that I ever really thought about why
yeah,
outside of the yeah, just, like, giving back to yourself a little bit or just kind of especially moms, you're just giving
all
all
day,
day, and it's like,
right?
"What did you give to yourself?" And I think people are a little bit turned off by the notion because we have a culture that's very much, like, self-love, but it's like sometimes I think some of Satan's lies can exist in that, where self-love means something very different, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. Like, it's
Mhm.
very much like me time
Right.
and it's like, okay, there's balance, and I
Yes.
do think that there is a little bit of that and the world really pushes the complete opposite.
Mhm.
And so I think when people hear that, sometimes it's like, "Oh, it's a little hard," because you do hear those buzzwords and you
Yes.
think like, "Oh, me time," or, me time doesn't always mean like a shopping spree. Like me
Right.
time means just investing in yourself a little bit, and so I love that. That's a really good explanation. I like that.
Thanks. That's awesome. Was it last year that we were talking about like we were doing a gifting thing at Half Tea and we were doing like a bath bomb face mask. And
Mm.
I was like, yeah, we can call it anything except for the self-love gift box. Cause I was
Yeah.
so over that. Cause you're right. It had really turned into a selfish,
Yeah.
right? It was more about
Yeah, what am I
selfish.
getting?
Yeah. What am I going to get out of this? Oh, I'm so run down. I got to go,
Or vain
whatever.
thing. There's, like, materialism.
Yes.
Self-love meant, like, buying a bunch of stuff or redoing your kitchen is, like, that's not, like
No, no. But if you're having those strong impulses, again, going back, there's again that leads us back to you can find those and
Mhm.
you can fill those desires with very basic simple
Yes,
things,
yes.
right? And if you are feeling this like overwhelming, oh my gosh, I need something for
Yes.
me, start simple.
Mhm.
Do your hair every day.
Mhm.
Put a cute outfit on
Mhm.
and put a little makeup on.
I love
And
that.
just see if that gives you just enough
Yeah.
to make you feel like you're paying attention to those
Yes.
desires because they are real and they're very much
I
a part
love
of who
that.
we are as women.
I love that, and I think, like I said, Satan just in society, it's like self-love is like it's always gotta be elaborate or it has to be expensive. It's always
Mhm.
like a high cost thing. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
always
It's a very bougie
yes,
self-love
and
is
it's
very
like it
bougie.
literally could mean like Maybelline mascara and like just getting dressed with what's in your closet. And I think that's a lie a lot of times that women a trap, maybe I should say, that kind of people fall into. And that's why I think, like you said, it's kind of that buzzword of like self-love, but some people don't think about it in the way it was intended to be,
Mhm.
or I think in a spiritual lens,
Mhm.
because the societal lens of it is so loud. And
Sure.
people do recognize, like, no, I don't need to go on a shopping spree to love myself. But there's truth in the notion. It's just don't listen to the world's version of it. Listen to like this version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's something sacred about how we show up. When I think about faith, I think about stewardship, our homes, our families, our work, and even our bodies. How has your faith, and I feel like you've already touched on this,
Mhm.
but how has your faith shaped the way you approach style?
Yeah. I think it's everything. I think it used to be like 90% technical, 10% spiritual. Now I think it's like the opposite.
Hmm.
So much of how I approach things is spiritual. And I think if I could speak a little further to that, I think so much of it is constantly learning because I think where I'm at now, I hope is not where I'm at in 5 years with
Mm.
my understanding of my
Mhm.
value. And I'm only really a short ways into this like profound journey of really understanding. And so I'm excited to see where God can expound and open my mind to new ways. And I oftentimes, I still feel like I have experiences and I have moments that I'm like, I think God's testing this testimony of value. And maybe it's, I did a photo shoot for like a bathing suit company. They asked me to photo shoot. I don't know why they asked me, but they did, and I thought it was gonna be amazing. I thought I'm like I had in my mind, from a worldly lens, I felt like I looked good and like I had all these check boxes, and then I got these photos back, and I cried for days. I couldn't believe and I'm also a photographer, so I recognized it was angled. Like I kind of knew why they looked, and I prayed about that, and because I, was like, "This is so against what I believe," and I had that feeling that was like, God is gonna continue to give me times and experiences
Hmm.
to step outside of that, and, you get tagged in a photo and you're like, "Oh my gosh, do I look like"
Yes, I do, princess. At princess.
And those are those experiences that God is like, "I'm helping you put off that natural man and finding your value in a real way." And so I think it's a lifelong journey, but I think faith is at the core and at the center of it because I don't think that real acceptance will ever come from clothes. And I don't think real acceptance will ever come from what you're wearing, what you're any of that, and I think it can be a way to celebrate our bodies, and I talk about this quite a bit on my page that I use fashion to celebrate my body, but I have a very hourglass figure, and so I struggled a lot with, like, the styles that are more popular or not for my body shape, and when I started dressing for my own body shape, I think for a lot of years it was like, "Oh, that's not modest because it's shows curves," but it's like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? They're
Mhm.
there."
Right.
Like, I can't help it, and so that was another step in realizing like, oh, fashion can be used to celebrate our bodies. It doesn't always have to sexualize. It can celebrate that God created each body different. God
Mhm.
intended for the pear shapes and the apple shapes and the like that was his creation, and he knew that our bodies would all look different because God is the author of diversity. He never wanted us all to look the same, and Satan does in a lot of ways. I think he wants us to lose our individuality and our sense of self, and so in terms of how my faith plays a role, I think it's really understanding that our bodies it goes so much deeper than just like, "Oh, you're a pear shape, you're an apple shape." It's like God designed your body. Like, he designed it to look the way that it looks, and there's value in that, and when we don't have any gratitude for it, or we discard it, or we hate it, or we abuse it, or we do all those things, that's rooted in a place of rejection of something that was meant to be beautiful and would be if we looked at it outside of a worldly lens.
Mm.
And so I think the spiritual journey for me evolves all the time. And just last week, I had an experience where my husband actually kind of corrected me, and I'm like, "You're right. I believe that, but I still get caught up sometimes in this natural man way of thinking." And I think a lot of it is really just turning to God in those moments. And if you asked me 5 years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer, but when I have those moments of like, "Oh, I don't look good," or, "Oh, this body feature I don't like," or I start doing that, I just will pray.
Mm.
And I'll literally like it's cliche, but I will, and I'll say like, "Help me to see this for what it really is and not from how I'm being made to see it." And so I just think faith plays such a big role, and it'll continue to play it because I don't think you can find the real value and truth without God.
I love that. In church on Sunday, this is something we were talking about feeling God's love, having experiences that help us feel God's love. And I find it fascinating. This is what I think is so incredible about faith and God is that today we are talking about body shapes, styling,
Yeah.
and yet we really need to remember that everything, all things come from God.
Yes.
And when we approach
Mhm.
all things with God,
Yes.
everything becomes spiritual.
Yes. I love that.
Everything becomes spiritual.
Mhm.
Anyways, we were talking about that, and one of the ladies was saying, I just have such a hard time sometimes feeling God. And I loved this comment from this other woman. She said, "Listen, we are very highly intelligent human beings. We are God's kids. We're His children, and sometimes God doesn't want us to have to. He doesn't want the testimony to come because He's constantly
Mhm.
making us feel, helping us feel a certain way because
Mhm.
He doesn't make us feel anything. We choose it, right?"
Mhm.
She said, "Sometimes the experiences are about remembering
Yeah.
how He has already testified to
Yes.
us about
Mhm.
certain things."
Mhm.
And if we read in your scriptures, we are told a lot of times to remember,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And remembering is part of the faith process
Yeah.
as well. We should not always require
Mhm.
uh, an, an answer.
Mhm.
Sometimes the answers come in remembering past experiences and how God has already
Totally.
answered our prayers before.
Yeah.
And that you
Totally.
just that was something that I just loved about
Mhm.
that process, and that it's important. It's important that we
And
use
it's work.
past experiences. It is work, and it's trusting, right? It really is trusting, like, okay, I understand. These pictures look awful and I hate them. I have this, I'm thinking this picture that's been on our site for like months. And I saw it the very first time. I'm like, guys, I look like an Oompa Loompa. Like, please, can we just find another picture? We were in team meeting last week and I was like, oh my gosh, this picture is still on the site. Somebody save me. But
Like someone's getting fired.
I know, exactly. It's like, princess, change that photo. But anyways, that was an opportunity for you to remember.
Yeah.
Remember your
Mhm.
past experiences. Remember, oh, this is angle. This isn't
Mhm.
my body.
Mhm.
Remember that, oh, actually taking swimsuit photos is not, I mean, nobody loves it, right?
Yeah.
So, and remembering all those past experiences that you had, that
Yes.
God had testified to you
Yeah. Well, and
already.
realizing that it like, I looked at the confidence that I would have worldly. Like, I was like, because 'cause I'd been working out and it was summer,
Mm.
I was so tan and, like, my mindset was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm doing these photos.
Yeah, I
I'm
got
gonna
this.
love it." And then when I got them back, it was, like, such a blow to the ego, but I also had that realization that I was like, "But then that was never confidence to begin with."
Sure.
If I went into it with the mindset of how good I was gonna look, then that was actually not real confidence, that was pride, really. And then when I had that moment, that learning moment, it was realizing like, oh, that was to an experience to deepen my understanding of self-worth unrelated to that. And that's something that I talk about a little bit too, though, is like our confidence. A lot of times there's that, oh, you feel confident because it's like worldly confidence, and there's worldly confidence, and then there's godly,
Mhm.
and so it just, yeah, that was such, there's so many, it was just multifaceted, that experience, like, I learned so many things, so many hard truths, so many, and I continue to learn all the time because just like you said, we have to constantly remember, and it is work, and we have to be reminded. That's why we go to church every Sunday. That's why they say read your scriptures and pray every single day. Like, these are things we have to constantly, constantly be fueling ourselves with and speaking those words over ourselves, and I don't think we do that about our bodies and our worth. I
Mm-mm,
just don't think we
not enough.
like, every day, do you pray and remind yourself and reaffirm to yourself your actual God-given worth? I never did.
Mm-mm.
I mean, my whole life, I never did. And I think that's something that Satan's very good at distracting us from. And so I think when we can put that in the forefront of our minds and understand our worth, everything in our life.
That reminds me too on Sunday, the whole point of the lesson on Sunday was that we are literal daughters of God.
Mhm,
And what if we woke up every day and in the mirror,
mm,
we approached that day as I am a daughter of God.
mhm,
And the people in whom I am going to associate with are also daughters and sons
mhm,
of God. And if we approached every day like that, how much different would we approach even ourselves?
mhm,
And how much more expectation would,
mhm.
not in a bad way, but in a good way,
Yeah,
right? Like how much more expectation and trust would we have in ourselves to go throughout our day
yeah.
as a literal daughter of God with that reminder every single day. So, anyways, I love it. Okay. You're also a business owner,
Mhm.
creating content, serving women, and balancing real life. How has entrepreneurship tested your confidence? And what have
Ooh.
you learned about leading as a woman in this space?
Um, you know what I've learned? The honest truth, the raw truth is who God calls, he qualifies, because I feel like when we step into the spaces that we're called to step into, you always imagine you're gonna do it with so much confidence, and oftentimes the people that have the most confidence when they first step into those spaces, oftentimes I think you're gonna realize that you don't actually have the confidence you thought you had. And I struggled with this for a little while because don't know if I've announced this yet, but I'm writing a book. I have a
Oh,
book
I love
deal
that.
working on that, and I felt called to write this book for probably 5 years that I've been working on it, but the last pretty much when all this body styling stuff about a year ago that I needed to write this book, and it was like, no can do. And the prompting kept coming, and about earlier this year, every time I would pray about what to do next, and my husband and I would pray about where to move and just, the life choices, and the only answer I got was, "Write this book." That's it. And I would go and write and cry and shut my laptop and pray again, and I'd pray again, and I'd just be like, "I don't know what to do." And the book was starting to come along, like, my husband would read it and he'd be like, "I think this is a powerful message that you have here," and I was starting to kinda share a little bit of the message on social media, and just seeing the response kinda made me realize, like, okay, maybe God is doing something I don't realize that he's doing with me. But then as I'm writing this book and as it's growing, I'm, having some even hardships on social media, people being mean, or, you just get all that difficulty with stuff, and I say, and I think a lot of lies, like, "You can't do this, like, what are you trying to do?" Which is funny because I have written a book before, but never something like this. So I prayed about it one time, and I mean, I was kinda throwing in the towel, and I just said, "I cannot do this," and I listed all of my flaws in prayer, all my faults. I mean, it was like, "This is why I cannot do this," and I shared it all in prayer, and the answer that I got was, "Mykel, it's because of those things that I've called you to write this book." And it hit me like a tsunami wave. Like, it was one of those things where you're like, don't even have an answer. You're like, "Oh my gosh." And I learned from that when God really truly calls us to do something, then he's gonna qualify us and he's gonna strengthen us to do it. And I've seen that because I talk about all this stuff confidently because I have a testimony of it, but countless nights, countless nights where I'm like, "I do not know what I'm doing." Not in terms of, like, technical, 'cause like that I know, but, like, stepping out into a public way, and having people be mean, or, writing a book and having these interviews and talking about things, it's very intimidating for me because at my core, I always kind of wanna be called out of the spotlight. Like, I kind of wish that God had called me to something more quiet, just not as public, just
Mhm.
as important, but not public. And he has called me to the spotlight, and it's been uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's been hard.
Mhm.
And I prayed a thousand prayers about it. I'm like, "Can I just retreat? Can I go home? Can I be done? Can I move back to Michigan? Like, can I just leave?" I struggle in Utah even. Like, I'm just not from here, and I realized that in business and in everything, when God has truly called you to do something, He will give you everything you need to do it. And He oftentimes is calling you to do it because of your weaknesses, not maybe necessarily your strengths all the time. And when people are like so confident like this, I'm like, a lot of times you learn, like, oh, I'm not as confident as I thought. And you have that passion, but God's going to refine that. And it's a long journey, and there's a lot of really hard lessons. And I've learned a lot of really hard lessons
Mm.
in having a business, doing body shape styling, writing a book, doing all these things that I've done, but I feel that I've had, like, that strength, and I feel like I've had that answer as to why, and so I think if people are struggling with their calling in life, once you identify it, you have to trust God, but you also have to understand that He's considered all those things before he called you to start a
Mhm.
podcast. Yeah, we were just talking about that. He
Yeah.
knew, before if you feel called to do something truly and spiritually, then it's sometimes it's like, I don't even know how to do that. And he will provide a way. And I just want to share this story. I just feel like it's so on point. But just to prove this point, because I'm so passionate about this, and I think so many women get caught up in doubt. But after that prayer that it was like, "Mykel, this is why I've called you to this." I said, "Okay, I am gonna write this book." I'm gonna cry talking about this, but I'm like, "I'm gonna write this book, and I'm gonna give it everything that I have until August 7th. And then August 7th, it's in your hands." This is just like my prayer, like, I that's how lost I felt. August 7th, it's in your hands, and that's you're gonna have to provide the way. I don't know how to publish this book. I don't know who's gonna read it. I don't know. I mean, I just am like, it just feels like a black, dark path. And so I wrote the book, got it refined, spent all this time, and then I got invited to an LDS Fair conference as an influencer, which is really odd because there wasn't a lot of people invited, and I didn't know why they invited me. And Al Caraway was speaking, and I love her. I think she's just, you wanna talk about stepping into the light and just
Mhm.
doing what God's called you to do humbly. I mean, she's the most humble human on the planet. She's not want credit, and I love her. Anyway, um, I after she got off stage, I felt prompted that I needed to go talk to her, and I had sent her a message on Instagram like, "Hey, I'm trying to publish a book, but I don't know how. Do you have any advice?" And she never got back to me because she's huge and busy. And after I she got off the stage, and I went and chatted with her, and we got chatting, and I think I tagged her in a photo or something, and she saw that message.
Oh, interesting.
And she said, "Oh my gosh, are you still doing this?" And I was like, "I kind of." And she said, "Here's my number, call me and I'll help." So then she gave me the contact I needed for the publishing company, and I'm talking to my husband about this, like, after I got off the phone with her, and I'm like, "This is so crazy," and I'm talking to him about it, and he's like, "What's the date today?" And we look at the calendar, and it's August 7th. Yeah. It literally was I, like, still and then you have these moments where you're like, "Okay, that was right." Like, I knew that, and so women doubt themselves. I think doubting is a common with women, men too, but I think women especially,
Mhm.
Satan uses doubt and questioning. You cannot question what God has called you to, and you can't retreat, you can't step back, you have to move into it, and you have to move past all the uncomfortable and all the tears and all the sadness because that's what discipleship is, and when God's given you a message and a passion that only you can teach because of your life and your experiences, you have to listen and he will provide a way. And that solidified that testimony that's like he will always provide a way. And he'll do it in a way that makes it very clear that he's provided a way. And that moment was like he really showed up on August 7th. And so anyway, all that to say is just that there's so many challenges with entrepreneurship, and when your heart is aligned with what you're supposed to be doing, then God is always gonna find he's always going to provide that way and give you all that you need for that.
That's incredible.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I haven't talked about that either. Like, I don't think anyone knows that story, so here's the debut.
I was just telling Princess last week. Wasn't it last week? It was last week we were talking, or whenever we shot last. But we've had a lot of experiences here that people say, I've never shared this before.
Yeah.
And I find that those are moments where the Spirit tells me, oh, this is what you're doing. This is why you're doing it. Is
Yeah.
these little opportunities for women to share experiences in a safe space that
Mhm.
lends itself to the Spirit
Mhm.
almost, right? So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks
I
for
don't even
letting
think
us be
I
the
don't even know if Al Caraway knows that story. I don't think I've even told her. So, yeah.
That's a very, very
Yeah.
sweet story. I've been doing a word that keeps coming up in all of my scripture studies and spiritual journeys is expedient.
Mm.
And it's a funny word because in the scriptures it talks about how God will give and we can ask for all things, right?
Yeah.
And knock and you shall receive, essentially. Ask and it shall be opened unto you. And then in a lot of those scriptures, not a lot, but several of the scriptures, it says, but whatsoever is expedient in God.
Mm.
And expedient actually means appropriate.
Mhm.
Expedient actually means God's will.
Yeah.
And so when we're praying, what I find fascinating is that you put a date on it, right? Like you put a date and said, listen, Heavenly Father,
I was desperate.
yeah, I can only see this far. And you said a lot of the choices that we make, fear, I think, is such a huge factor into it as well. But because of how God teaches us, He teaches us step by step, right? He never, ever, rarely, because most of us couldn't handle it, shows us the entire staircase. Because looking up at the staircase that we actually have to climb, we would never even start with a
No.
step.
Even looking back, I'm like,
Yes.
I wouldn't have done
Like, I'm not doing that again. Because the staircase generally is very steep. There's lots of stairs, and really, it would be hard for us, especially as natural man and as humans, to really take it on. But He does give us those tiny steps at a time. Again, He orders them in a way that we can't even believe the majesty of where we have, where we have gotten. And then we look back and again, but that's where remembering comes in. I was on a hike a couple years ago up in Stewart Falls, and we were just hiking along. And when you hike, put your head down because you don't want to die. And I've got all these little kids, and so I'm making sure everyone's where they need to be. And I just had this impression, turn around. And I turned around, and the view that I saw behind me was magnificent. And I thought to myself, how often do we get so focused on the road that's in front of us, because it is hard and it is grueling, and there are, roots sticking up that will trip us up, and rocks, and there are cliffs to the side of us. So we do need to stay focused on the present where we're headed. But every so often, we need to turn around and we need to look from behind what's behind us. And what we'll see
So true.
is the view is wonderful and is beautiful. And we have been significantly blessed by Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
All right. One other thing that I want to talk about before we wrap this awesome episode up. So Half-T's in a rebuilding season right now. We stripped back to a foundation and are reimagining how we serve women. And I've realized rebuilding isn't weakness, is wisdom. From your perspective, what does it look like to rebuild your confidence or style after a hard season? Whether that's business, this could be motherhood, or even body changes. That's something that I did not warn you about.
No, I love that. Wait, let me ask a clarifying question, because sometimes I pick one thing and I run with it, and I want to make sure I'm getting the question. So you just mean rebuilding setbacks, when you have setbacks, coming back from them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with business, which I haven't talked much about business because I don't know, usually I don't as much, but I think with business, in terms of rebranding and rebuilding, which we have done, we have rebranded. This is my hard truth that I will share with people in terms of business and branding and that element, because I do think it's a little different than setbacks of life, having a baby and losing your self-esteem, that's different. With business, I have had some really, really, really difficult, humbling moments of realizing, "Oh, this wasn't the path." And I think sometimes I'm not saying for half tea. Half tea's phenomenal. You keep doing it. But, like, sometimes I think we have moments where either we just put our heads down like the hike you said and just keep going, 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 that sometimes when we come up for air and we pray about it and we actually try to align our will with God's, we might find that what we were doing was not God's will. That is one of the hardest things to do. I had that happen with Prude, where the dreams of Prude and what I had planned for it, I when I prayed about it, it was like, nope. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
So really quick, tell everyone what fruit
Oh,
is.
Prude is my clothing line. Yeah, my clothing line. I poured my soul into Prude. I poured every ounce of everything and then some into Prude, and when I prayed about what to do with it and that journey, it was actually unexpected that it was not aligned with what I needed to be doing, and I
Did you feel impressed to start like, obviously, I feel like Prude was an
yes,
inspired.
Prude was very inspired. Prude was inspired because of my greater this is not I'm just saying this. I think part of Prude was the path to where I'm at now, and I definitely think Prude has a story and there's a lot more to happen with it, but what I was saying was, like, the places I wanted to take it.
Mm,
Like, I was working on, like, big things, like,
mm.
I wanted Fashion Week, like, I was, like, wanting to build Prude as, like, this national modest representation brand. Spilling all my secrets, but, like, that's where I was heading with Prude, and no body styling, definitely no book. That was not there,
Mm.
and then when it was, like, every time I would do it, it was like, "It's a super of thought," and I listened to those because when you start having those, like, "Ooh," that is God telling you something. You have to listen to those moments. Not doubt, but those, like, stirrings, and I didn't acknowledge it for a while. I'm like, "Nope, I'm not I put so much into this," and when I finally was humble, I realized that I it was not aligned with what God was intending for my life. And that was really a hard pill to swallow, and I'm okay now, and Prude's in a good place, and, like, it's still up and going, and it's just not what it was gonna be, and it shifted to something that I had no idea I
Mm,
was meant to do,
mhm,
and now that I've stepped into this, it feels so right to me. It feels so like this is everything I was supposed to do, but I had to let go of Prude in
mm,
that way. I had to let go of that dream, so I think part of it is when we rebrand, there's technical things, okay, we're gonna switch it up for the market. The market's shifted, but sometimes rebranding in my eyes is God saying, "You could take this somewhere else. You could do this." And I'm not here to say what that would be for anyone, but you have to think about why those thoughts are coming into your mind because 'cause they're being placed. As long as they're not doubt, it's probably God saying, "Hey, you could serve women better here." In terms that's business. In terms of, like, body styling and I get that women, I haven't talked about this, I don't think, before, but I've been diagnosed with PCOS, and I had so much weight gain in a short window of time, and it was like, "What happened?" Like, it was really hard for me at the time and kind of rebuilding and, obviously things I worked it all out, but, um mothers, I think the most common is, like, new moms postpartum and just feeling like, "I don't even recognize myself." Hormonally, you don't recognize yourself, your hair's falling out. These are just things women tell me. Like, there's all of this, and I think part of it for me, and this is the harder truth of it, is that we have to be willing to let go of old seasons,
mhm,
and I think that's where we get caught up is we wanna hold on to this season, and we gotta let it go. Half Tea had a phenomenal era at that time, but you gotta let that era go because there's a new one and a
mm,
better one,
mhm,
and it's gonna be higher heights, it's gonna be greater things, and it's comfortable here.
mhm,
Women were comfortable with their old bodies, they were comfortable with always feeling really confident. Maybe they were always really skinny and now they're not. Like, you have to let go of that season, and I think the hardest part for people in progressing, both spiritually and in business and in just our lives, is being okay with letting go of old seasons because when you're with God and you're aligned with God, He's taking you to better things
mm,
and greater things. And we have to let go of things we love, even. I love Bird Eye, everything, all of that. It was my work, my life's work. And God was like, nope.
mm,
But now that I'm in this, I see it. And I think with women, with I get so many comments, women being like, "Can't fit into my old jeans." We'll burn them then,
yeah,
because 'cause we're not there anymore. Burn
mm,
them and move on to the new height. Stop getting distracted by where you used to be because where you're going is so much greater. And I think Satan uses
Mhm.
that tactic of like, well, look how great it was. And you probably have phenomenal memories of half tea and that initial startup and all that success and joy. And I'm not here to say, but maybe God's like calling you to a new place with it.
Mm.
And you mentioned before, like starting your podcast and being like, that was a little out of my realm. And, it's letting go of old things. And I think that's my advice to anybody who's struggling with business, body, all of that is you have to be okay with letting go of old seasons and stepping into new ones as long as you're aligned with God and you
Mhm.
know it. You need
Mhm.
spiritual confirmation before you go doing that. But when you have it, let it go
Mm.
because He'll take you to better things and greater things. And the fulfillment that I feel doing what I'm doing now and writing this book is far greater than if Crude was at Fashion Week.
Mm.
I know that,
Mhm.
because I feel that. So, yeah.
Wow, what awesome. That's my Monday morning message. So we do little clips
That's
of
cute.
yeah, I love that. What really, really good advice. This last, one of my solo episodes was on season.
Oh, was it? Oh, I didn't
Yes.
hear that one.
Yes, it was. It was specifically on seasons and on layers and how
Oh,
important it is as women that this is a new layer of seasons. And I love, um, on the podcast, I talk about how easy it is for us to compare one another's
Oh
seasons,
gosh, yeah.
right? And so we'll sit and we'll compare. Oh, look at how awesome her life looks. Well, her season is a significantly different season than your season. And instead of looking, vertically,
Yeah.
we really need to look just right today,
Yeah.
present. What am I doing today? So but I love that we have to let go of old seasons so that we can really come into our new season, bigger,
Yeah.
better, stronger. Maybe it's a season where where it's a slower
Yeah.
season, right?
Yes.
And I would assume writing a book is quite a bit slower.
Slow motion.
Yeah, way slower than designing
Yes.
new dresses every season and
Yep.
keeping up with that because I understand that world of design.
Oh,
It's
you
just
know it.
never ever
Oh.
over. It's
And
never
it
over.
requires a high level of constant
Right,
mental
exactly.
and sometimes you don't have that.
Right,
Sometimes God's like, "Hey, this is too fast. We gotta move into this for
right.
whatever reason." Yeah, that's so true.
That's a wonderful piece of advice. I hope everyone listened to that because
Yes.
that was
It's my
very
life's
profound.
advice. It's the only thing that's
It's
helped me.
it's very, very good. Very good. Okay, I want to end with this is something new. We normally do would you rather, but
Oh.
this is a new approach, but it's kind of a little lightning round. If there's one style rule, we're going to go back to kind of where we started.
Yeah,
If there's
the
one
fun, yeah.
style rule you think every woman should break, what would it be?
Ooh, gosh. There's one style rule. It's always gonna be body styling for me, and I think that the one styling rule is I don't know if this is a rule necessarily, but I feel like this idea that everybody should be able to wear the same things.
Love it. I agree with you.
Mhm.
I agree with you. A scripture or phrase that grounds you.
Oh. Oh my gosh, so many, like, oh, okay, let me think. I'm not good on the spot if you can't tell because I think too much, but,
I think you've been great on the spot, by the way.
oh,
A podcast is on the spot and you just nailed it.
thank you. I think, I will not leave you comfortless, I will come to you because I think in life, we feel like sometimes we don't know where God is, and at the core, He will never leave us, never, and I think that brings me peace when I have doubt and things that it's like, "No, He's there."
I was just telling the kids the other day at dinner that if we don't feel close to God, He is not the one that's moved.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes, that's a really good one.
So sometimes it takes us, and sometimes it's harder to move back, and it takes extra vigilance. And one of my daughters was kind of struggling. She's like, "Oh, I just feel so frustrated," and I just said, "Then let's just shift our music because kids always have music."
Oh,
And I
yeah.
said, "Let's just shift our music, and in the mornings, let's turn on." Yeah, one of my favorite songs is "Peace in Christ," but let's just change what we listen to in the morning, and let's just see if that helps your day.
Mhm.
And
I
sure
love
enough, it was
that.
just that tiny little shift that helped.
Yes.
help her feel closer to
Yeah.
Heavenly Father throughout the day.
I love that.
What is your current favorite outfit or confidence piece?
Ooh. Well, I'm a sucker for fall fashion. I thrive. I'm a
I do too.
new person
I
in the
know, I
fall.
love fall fashion too.
And it's so funny because I think I go back to my roots, which is oversized, even though I talk about, I'm like 50-50 these days with oversized and not oversized. Because then people think that. They're like, "Oh, she always wears stuff." I'm like, "No, I
No.
wear oversized." But for fall time, you could not pry a blazer out of my full dead fingers.
You just love them.
A blazer, like,
Yeah, she's
basically what I'm
actually got
wearing.
one on
What
if
I
you're
actually
listening.
wore today. A little oversized, a lot oversized blazer. I become a different person in a blazer.
I love it. I love it. Um, what's one thing you want women to remember when they look in the mirror tomorrow morning?
I wanna go cliché, right? Like, "Oh, you're valuable," but I think for me, what was more impactful was what lies am I listening to
Mm.
right now? Because I think that's a shift in the thinking that we don't think about,
Mhm.
and rather than pouring goodness and being like, I'm worth something, I'm a child of God, I'm a daughter of God," that's all true, but it didn't work for me that way all the time. I felt like, "Okay, I know that, but I still hate the way I look." And when I could start being like, "Why would Satan want me to hate my nose?" You know?
Yeah.
Like, why would he do that? Obviously, it's to change it into self-rejection, but when we can start identifying the lies, and my favorite is, "Who told you that?"
Oh, I love
That's the
that.
one I say where I'll be like, "Oh, my hair's so thin," or my hair, and I'll literally say, like, "Who told you that?"
Huh.
Because if it's not a fruit of the spirit, God wouldn't tell you that, then who told you that?
Yeah.
And so for me, that was more maybe in my more practical mindset, a lot more impactful, or if I'm like, "Oh, my thighs are too big," it's like, "Who told you that? They were too big,
Mhm.
and why?"
Mhm.
And that honestly changed my whole
Hmm.
way that I looked at all of that. So, for some people, it might be "You're beautiful," and all that, but I just don't resonate with that as much. I always resonate more with, like, why wouldn't I think that in the lie that I'm being told? Because every time you look in the mirror, Satan's gonna tell you a lie. I
Mhm.
promise.
Mhm.
I promise you that.
Mhm.
And so identify it and realize it's from him, and then you can cast it out.
I love it, and in doing so, we put ourselves in a way better place to be able to
Oh, yeah.
choose who we listen to,
Yes.
right? Because I think a lot of times we don't even recognize that we're
Exactly.
listening to the
No,
wrong
we
source.
don't. And that's why it goes on so long.
Mhm.
That's why you spend 20 years hating your body because
Yep.
you never identified
Who you're
who
listening
you're
to,
listening to.
because it's a choice. It really is a choice. Everything
Everything is a choice.
everything is a choice. But a
Mhm.
lot of times we gotta work backwards, and we gotta figure out where the root is,
Yes.
and once we identify the root, then all of a sudden we can start to shift who we listen to
Yeah.
and the choices we make from there.
And it will change your whole life.
I love it. Mykel, thank you so much for bringing so much truth and beauty to this conversation. You've reminded us that our bodies were never the problem and that showing up as who God made us to be is the most powerful statement we can make. Really, really appreciate you
Thank
being
you
here.
so much for having me. It's so
You
good.
can connect with Mykel on her Instagram. We already talked about this at Mykel Davis _ and explore her styling resources at Body Shape Styling. And remember, when women support each other with intention, we rise together. Your dollar is more than currency, it's influence, it's change, it's empowerment. Until next time, let your choices shape the world you want to see and love every layer of your life.